everyone, Josh from healthyblender.com here. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Vitamix 5200 for you. We're going to be talking about some of the parts of the blender, some of the things you can do with it, and I'll be giving you a couple of live demonstrations. We're going to be grinding some fresh whole grain flour, and we'll be making a healthy homemade ice cream from scratch in literally just seconds. It's pretty neat. Also, make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I have a special bonus for you. Vitamix does make quite a few different models, and I know that can be confusing for a lot of people. I remember it was for us when we were first trying to decide which one to get. Basically, all the models are really based around the 5200, so for most people that's really going to be your best choice. Now the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box that it came in was, oh boy, this thing's heavy duty. This is not a cheap blender. It feels really solid, it's really well built. And it does weigh in at about 10 pounds, and a lot of that's in the base and the motor itself. Now the motor is really powerful in this. It operates at about 2 peak horsepower, which when you kick this thing into high gear, the blades inside will actually start spinning at about 240 miles an hour, which is just crazy. I think it's really fun to watch. I mean, you can just put a whole stack of stuff in here and it'll just tear through it all in no time flat. It's pretty neat. The other nice thing that I enjoy about the motor is that it's got excellent thermal cooling. There's a large radial fan on the bottom that pulls a lot of air through the blender when it's running. This is important to me because, like I said earlier, I have burned out blenders in the past before, and I definitely don't want to burn out this one. And I've actually left this running on high for 6 or 7 minutes when I'm making fresh soup in here, and the machine never smells hot. It never seems like it's going to be burned out or anything. It's great. Another thing I like about the base itself are the switches and the dial on it. I think it's really a simple, intuitive system to use. Our old blender had all those buttons on it with all the labels, and the buttons are kind of wobbly and sometimes they get stuck, and I never liked that at all. This is much easier, I think. There's a switch to turn it on, there's a dial to control how fast it's going, and if you want to put it into high speed mode, you just flip this other one, and that's it. It's really simple. The switches are really, really solid. They have a great feel to them. I don't feel like they're going to break after a few years. So that's pretty much it about the base. Now as far as the containers go, Vitamix does make a couple of different containers. They make wet containers and they make a dry container. The wet container comes in 3 different sizes. You can get it in a 64 ounce, which is what this one is. That holds just about 8 cups of fresh ingredients, and that's enough to make family-sized portions of things. If you don't need quite as much volume, they do also make a 48 ounce, which is a shorter container, and they make a 32 ounce, which is the same size as this one. A couple of nice things about the container that I like. It's made of plastic. It's a BPA-free plastic, so there's you don't have to worry about any toxins getting into your food. But it's really sturdy. I've actually accidentally dropped this a couple times, and it doesn't chip or break. You really don't have to worry about it. It's nice and sturdy. The lid itself feels really robust too, and it secures on here really well. You don't have to worry about it popping off, or if you're blending a lot of hot stuff in here, that can be a concern sometimes because the steam buildup in there will cause a lot of pressure. So you do want to make sure your lid is well secured. Now as far as the dry container goes, you can grind fresh flours in this. You just put in your whole wheat or spelt or whatever you want, and the way the blades are designed, it will pull the unground stuff down into the blades, and it's pretty neat. You don't have to do anything extra with it. You just pour in your dry ingredients and let it go. Now the one last thing is the tamper. The tamper is actually my favorite part about the Vitamix. It seems kind of silly because it's just this little plastic thing, but the reason this is so cool is a lot of times when you're blending, sometimes, especially when it's really thick, the food just doesn't want to quite go all the way down. I remember in the old blender I would sometimes try and stick a little spoon in it to push things down, which is a really bad idea because if you put it in too far it's going to hit the blades and you're going to end up with spoon in your food. But with the tamper, you can just pop the top off the lid here, and it's got a stop on it, which is perfectly sized so that it goes straight down to the bottom without actually touching the blades. This is really convenient to be able to just, get in here and shove the, shove the ingredients down into the blender. It's especially useful when you're making really thick smoothies or nut butters, or I use it a lot when I'm blending greens in here, because sometimes the greens like to stick on the side, so you can push them down right in. It's also useful for making ice cream, which we'll do in just a minute here. Okay, so I have here, it's just regular whole grain spelt. Nothing crazy about that, so we're just going to pour it in here. Put the lid on. And just turn it on, let it run. We'll start, usually when you start the Vitamix, you start on low speed, and then you gradually turn it up and kick it in high. Alright, and that's it. You can see how easy that was. There really is nothing to it. What you end up with is fresh, really finely ground flour. It's really simple and works really well. Next, we're going to make some fresh homemade ice cream from scratch. So let me go ahead and grab the ingredients. Alright, so I've got the ingredients together. Let's go ahead and make some ice cream. Now, this is a really quick and convenient way to make a healthy dessert, and it tastes great. So, let me tell you what we have here. First off, the key to this, I find, is to make it creamy, is to use frozen bananas. You don't want to use a raw banana, make sure it's frozen. So, I've got about 1.5 or so bananas that were peeled and broken into chunks and then put in the freezer. We're going to be making strawberry ice cream, so I have some frozen strawberries, right about a cup or a little under a cup. And then these little guys that are kind of in the shape of stars. This is frozen almond milk. We just put this into little freezer trays and stick it in the freezer. You can use an ice cube tray or whatever. You don't have to use frozen milk, but it does make it a little thicker and creamier, and I prefer the consistency over just using the milk unfrozen. And we're also going to be using just a little bit of non-dairy creamer. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit is enough for you. Okay, so let's just get going here. You'll see just how easy this is to do. First I'm going to put in the frozen almond milk. Next I'll add the frozen strawberries. And on top I'll put the frozen banana. You can also add pretty much any other fruits you want. I mean, you can really flavor this any way you want to. It's great with blueberries, raspberries, cherries. It's really up to you. Okay, then we'll add just a little bit of creamer. I'm going to put in about 1/3 of a cup or so. And that's pretty much it. Now, when you make the ice cream, it is critical to use the tamper. So I'm going to pop the top off there and let's make it. And that's it. It's pretty fast, right? And what we have, you can see how thick this is. I mean, you can't even pour it out of here. You really got to scoop it. It's a nice, thick, creamy ice cream. It's really delicious, and it's fast and easy to make. Not only can I make homemade ice cream in it, or grind fresh flour, or make smoothies, of course, but I can also use it when I'm making hummus or dips, I use it when I'm making sauces, dressings, marinades. Sometimes I even use it when I'm making soup. If I'm in a hurry, I'll just pile all of my raw soup ingredients in here, like, my onions, garlic, celery, carrots, tomato, whatever you want. And I'll turn it on high and let it run for about 6 minutes, and presto, I've got instant hot soup ready to serve. I don't even have to turn on the stove. It's really convenient. Now, with so many positive things to say about the Vitamix, I do want to point out a couple of downsides. The first thing you'll notice is when you turn this thing on, it is pretty loud. Not only does the motor make some noise, but it's got the fan in there that pulls air through it to make sure it stays cool. All of this does make for a fairly loud blender. It's not like blending's a quiet activity anyway, but just be forewarned, it is louder than a regular blender. Another thing is, since the base of the blender is pretty tall to begin with, and then it's got this tall 64-ounce container, when you stack all this up, it's a little too tall to fit underneath the kitchen cabinet. It won't quite make it. This could be a problem if you're short on counter space. It's not a problem for us. We just stick it next to the blender. No big deal. Then when we're going to use it, pull it out, stick it on, we're ready to go. So, not a big deal for us. Vitamix does make a slightly smaller container that's 48 ounces instead of 64, and you can choose that with your package if you want. The 48-ounce container will fit under a standard kitchen cabinet, so problem solved. The last thing I would point out that's kind of a flaw with this taller container is you can see it's kind of narrow in the bottom there. If I made something sticky like hummus or nut butter or something, when I'm scraping the last little bits out of the bottom, it can be kind of tricky to work around the blade in there and get the last little bits out. I don't like to waste anything, so I like to get as much out as possible. I do want to point out that it's easy to clean still, because all I do for cleaning is just fill it up halfway with water, put a couple drops of soap in, and just put it back on the base and run it on high for about 30 seconds. It's like a little mini dishwasher inside of there. And then all you have to do is pour it out and rinse it with some clean water, and it's done. It doesn't take any time at all to clean it. So that's easy. Now, just to finish this review up, I do want to point out this is kind of what pushed us over the edge when we were considering should we buy it, should we not buy it. When I saw that Vitamix offers a 7-year warranty, I had to read it twice. I was like, 7 years? Really? You just don't see that in a product anymore. Companies don't stand behind their products for that long of a period of time usually. The fact that they warrant this will be free from any problems for you for 7 years, that makes all the difference to me. It really gives me peace of mind and makes me feel like this is a company I can really trust. The only other thing I want to say is if you do decide to get a Vitamix, make sure you check out my special bonus. You can read the details about it below, but I've put together a great package for you that's perfect for new Vitamix owners, and I think it'll really get you off on the right foot. That's all for now. I'll see you around.